Hello, this is Cooking with Cardboard. We are the Cardboard Cooks. I am Martin.
And I'm Ben. You can find us on Twitter at cardboard_cooks, and you can find Martin at mtg_golem.
Golem_MTG, but same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not on there a lot, so yeah. Anyway, so this week we're going to be talking about a couple things. We haven't done a lot of stayed up to date with a lot of the new stuff going on in Magic, and there is a lot. So this is going to be kind of a summary video.
Yes.
We're going to spend most of the time talking a little bit about Lord of the Rings, which we're both pretty hyped about. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about most recent spoilers in March of the Machines, and wrap it up with just a couple nuggets on all of the insanity going on over at Secret Lairs.
Yes, a lot of cards to update on, a lot of new mechanics, and a lot of just new things going on. I think they're
so much. So we're going to really just do a highlight reel. We're not going to talk in depth and too long. Try and keep this episode relatively short.
Yes.
But let's start off with Lord of the Rings. What are you stoked about Lord of the Rings? Are you a Lord of the Rings fan?
I definitely was a Lord of the Rings fan. I'm kind of hoping they have a Gimli card. That was like always my favorite, was the little guy with the axe, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm really excited.
They will likely have like 3 Gimli cards based on the spoilers so
Really?
far.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. I bet you they have an uncommon, a rare, and a mythic, at least, possibly multiples of some of those slots.
I feel like he's a main character, right? I don't know. He's definitely one I'm most excited about, but I'm also excited about the ring itself, so it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What's got you excited for that, Lord of the Rings?
So, Lord of the Rings has never been like my favorite IP.
Okay.
But as a huge like high fantasy fan in general, it's you can't really knock the original. Like, he really created the genre as we know it. Magic wouldn't exist without Lord of the Rings. I mean, not anything like we know it.
Yeah.
So like D&D came out of it, and Magic came out of D&D, and it's really cool to see such a iconic IP, intellectual property, being brought into Magic in a way that you could make an entire deck out of these cards and have their own feel, and play with your friends that like Lord of the Rings, and maybe get them hooked playing Magic. That's a win for me.
I think it's gonna bring in a lot of new players. I was actually talking to my older sister before we started recording, and she was asking about what we were going to talk about this week for the podcast, and she's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And I was like, you might have to start playing, Jess. Like, it's it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, well, so I've already pre-ordered the precons.
Nice.
So I'm definitely getting those, and I'll likely do what I normally do, which is just pick up singles from the rest of the set. But I kind of want to keep the precons intact.
Yeah.
For that reason.
To get to like a newer player that's just a fan of the IP, basically.
No, so you can do a pod of all Lord of the Rings.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean? That way, if you had new players that wanted to play because they like Lord of the Rings, they could play where every single card references Lord of the Rings, versus like, oh, there's like 3 Lord of the Rings cards in my deck.
In my hand. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not the same. You really want them to immerse themselves into the IP, which is great.
That's fair.
So, but card wise,
yes.
A lot of the cards mention a mechanic that is called the Tempt by the Ring.
So ominous.
Do you want to read what the ring tempts you is?
Yeah, I'll read that page if you want. Okay, so...
Yeah, why don't you read that side, I'll read the other.
That sounds perfect. The ring tempts you. As the ring tempts you, you get an emblem named the ring, if you don't already have one. Then your emblem gains its next ability, and you choose a creature you control to become or remain your ring bearer. So kind of like a Saga step down. It also has the ring can tempt you even if you don't control a creature. The ring gains its ability in order from top to bottom. Once it gains an ability, it has the ability for the rest of the game. Each time the ring tempts you, you must choose a creature if you control one. And each player can have only one emblem named the ring and only one ring bearer at a time. So a lot of built-in restrictions to try and help people from breaking it immediately. And I think similar to battles where it's a new mechanic and they're like, hey, okay, let's try not to make it super strong out of the gate. It seems like a very fair to weak mechanic. I don't know, but let's jump into the other side too, because before We discussed
Yeah,
too
so the
much.
ring side is the one that's going to tell us what abilities the ring bearer will get.
Yes.
So as soon as it's tempted, it gets the first one, which is your ring bearer is legendary and cannot be blocked by creatures with greater power. So like a form of evasion. It's actually called skulk, I think.
Okay.
That is an actual keyword. Yeah, and so skulk basically means they have to be blocked by other small creatures, which is kind of neat. Not super powerful, but there are some creatures that would benefit from this. The legendary, I feel like that is just flavor, but maybe not.
Yeah.
The second ability is whenever your ring bearer attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. So step two is connive. You just don't get the +1/+1 counter if you discard a non-land.
Yeah.
Whenever your ring bearer becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at the end of combat. So that's pretty strong. That basically gives your ring bearer death touch. But even better, if they block it by an indestructible creature, it is still sacrificed.
Oh yeah. That's a
So
good point.
actually a pretty strong ability, and I have a feeling some ring decks are going to be built around forcing the blocks by an indestructible ring bearer so that they can, lure all the creatures, kill all the creatures, basically plague wind a player,
Yeah.
which is historically a very fun ability. In original, revised, beta, and alpha, and all that, there was a 2-card combo. It was Thicket Basilisk, and Lure. So Lure is an enchantment that says all creatures able to block this creature must do so. And Thicket Basilisk says it's a 2/4, and any creature blocks it, just destroy it at the end of turn. So it's, it was always something that we tried to put together when we were first into this game, years and years ago. So I think this will be popular because that was super popular back then. And this is a little bit better because the ring is built into cards versus needing an entire card like Lure.
Yeah.
So, and the ring, you would just need to find the right deck for that, but it could be a fun strategy.
Yeah.
And then the last ability is whenever your ring bearer deals combat damage to a player, each opponent loses 3 life.
Just an overall pretty good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
One. I mean, you almost expect something a little bigger at the end of doing it 4 times or 3 times, right? 1 or 4.
Well, it's 4. Yeah. It's 4 times. So your first time they get the ring, then they're immediately the legendary ring bearer and have the hard to be blocked clause.
Yeah.
And then your ring bearer attacks, you loot, and then you get the if blocked and it is sacrificed, the blockers are, and then the 3 damage. So it's just kind of a funny thing is that the ring kind of gets them to want to block so that they don't lose life, but then they also don't want to block.
Yeah.
So kind of like a weird tension. And then if you give it double strike though, then you could get 6 life on top of whatever damage it does. So I don't know. I'm not super impressed with this.
Not super impressed, no.
Not super impressed. I feel like it's good flavor wise, but I don't think functionally it's going to be amazing. It just depends on how many cards say the ring tempts you on it, and you want to play that card
just naturally without.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like imagine a bird of paradise that says when this enters the battlefield, the ring tempts you.
Yeah.
You're just going to be like,
sure,
cool.
Yeah, added benefits.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is going to be something where you have like a blue mana cantrip to draw a card that says the ring tempts you. Is that enough to want to run that in the deck?
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards no. But I do have a question here.
Yeah.
So I might have misunderstood. Mm-hmm. So let's say I have Frodo Baggins out and the ring tempts him twice.
Yes.
So he then has the first 2 abilities. Then someone kills him.
Yes.
And I get Samwise, and he gets tempted. Is he then starting back at level 1, or is he at level 3?
I think it's kind of like the dungeon mechanic where like you move your piece down and you're still at that location. So if you travel to the next room of the dungeon, I think the ring remembers where you were last on the card.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, because it says it gains ability. It has the ability for the rest of the game.
Or remain your ring bearer. Okay, so that's stronger. At least you don't have to start back over again.
No, that's a fair question though. I mean, I don't know. I think it is. It's kind of interesting how they're going about it. I'm glad that it's not too strong, but I do agree it's slightly weaker than I would have liked. Initially, when it came out, like the ring tempts you as a phrase on a magic card, I thought it was a negative thing. Like I thought ultimately, like I thought from a lore mechanic of like, okay, the ring is something evil, so you're able to do this a certain amount of times before you pay a price for being tempted so many times. So,
Right. That's kind of what I felt like too. I think it would have been cool if like the second to last ability was super strong, but then the last one was like
yes,
a mind slaver by the opponent. Like they get to take your next
that
turn.
would be so sweet.
Right?
Yeah,
Like so like the step below is super powerful, but then the next step is like super bad.
yeah.
I think that would be cooler. But then I think that might have been they try and avoid feels bads,
The feel
and
bad
you
from
create
it,
it.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Cop out.
A few other notes I did have for the ring was I think it will fit naturally into a lot of archetype, not a lot, a handful of archetypes that will, like you said, wanted to naturally play it in Commander, because it gives that unblockability. I think that some ninja decks are gonna just run those small evasion creatures that they're gonna act like the small unblockable ones they already run, but they're
Mhm.
slightly better because you're getting that
Mhm.
effect. Um,
Yeah.
and then for the conniving. I think that a lot of decks run those like reconnaissance mission, coastal piracy kind of. Hey, if you hit, you get to draw. So if you have
Hmm.
unblockability in your conniving, it's like on top of that. Like those, I think those are going to want to naturally run it. But I hope the one really big downside, kind of like the initiative decks, is that you have to have an additional card now. It's like
Hmm.
it's kind of challenging. I wish there was some way we could avoid that, but luckily it's not like the Monarch or the Initiative where you can take it. So you're not going to have a new player being like, "I don't have that card. What do you want me to do?"
Exactly. That's the nice thing I like about this versus the initiative.
Yeah,
I really like the
me
initiative,
too.
but I do understand that some people don't because it's just extra accounting,
Sure.
and you don't, as a player, you don't always get the choice as to whether you're going to have to deal with that extra headache. So,
Yeah,
let's. I want to talk a little bit real quick before we move on too much from the ring itself.
sure.
The tempting you. I want to talk about Frodo Soren's Bane. It's a 1 white, 1/2 legendary halfling citizen rare. You can pay hybrid white black, so either 2 white, 2 black, or a white and a black. And it says if it is a citizen, it becomes a halfling scout with base power and toughness 2, 3, and lifelink. And then you can pay 3 black, and if it is a scout, then it becomes a halfling rogue with whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game if the ring has tempted you 4 or more times this game. Otherwise, the ring tempts you. So I think this guy really encapsulates what the ring tempting you is trying to do,
Yes.
right? It gives little guys evasion, makes it hard for them to be blocked, and then you're trying to do the 4 temps so you can try and win the game.
Yeah.
Um, so I have a feeling Frodo Soren's Bane will be a fairly popular commander for people that want to build around the ring tempting you. Be a white black deck.
It's kind of like the epitome if you're going into the set like a super big Lord of the Rings fan, you think this is the one that people are going to want to build.
It might be. I mean, I imagine there's going to be a Gandalf spoiled at some point that people are going to want to build around too. Gandalf the Grey is the one that was already spoiled. It's a blue and a red and 3 colors for a 3/4. It's got some triggers whenever you cast an instant or sorcery ability spell. You get to pick one that hasn't been chosen yet, but none of them are amazing.
We've got the Gandalf, the blue one, spoiled too. The friend of the
Yeah,
like,
the uncommon one looks actually like I like it better, but not as a commander.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
got it's a blue and 3 colorless Gandalf, friend of the Shrine, Shire. Legendary creature, avatar wizard, flash. Whenever you cast sorcery, you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. And whenever the ring tempts you, if you choose a creature other than Gandalf, friend of the Shire, as your ring bearer, then you draw a card. So
Sweet art.
give you, sweet art. It's I think this is probably the alternate art that we're looking at, but
Oh, you're probably right. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
yeah, so it's a cool card. I mean, having flash and also giving your sorcery splash, I think, is a pretty powerful ability on an uncommon.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that's pretty dope.
Nice.
So other than like what you're going to be seeing in these spoilers as they come out over the next month, doing things with the ring tempts you. There's a couple other cards and things that are good with the archetype. One in particular is a Master of Cruelties. It's a red, black, 3 colorless for a 1/4 demon. It's got first strike and death touch, and whenever if it attacks, it can only attack alone. And when it attacks a player and is not blocked, that player's life total becomes 1, and it doesn't deal damage this turn. So this is cool because as a 1/4, it's very hard to block. It's got first strike and death touch. So if it does get blocked, it's going to kill whatever it blocks, even if you haven't been tempted by the ring 3 times.
Yeah.
But a lot of times this thing's going to get through and put somebody to 1.
Oh, yeah.
So this is probably going to be a card that will be included in a lot of the ring tempts you decks.
Yeah, it seems like a really good include. It seems like it's a really strong, if you're going to the stronger side of that for high power, it's really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. I have one other kind of weird question, Martin. So if you're at if you've already gone through the entirety of like the ring's abilities and you get tempted again, does anything else happen?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's just thinking out
It
loud there.
seems like what happens is you start at 0 and you work your way through 4, and then once you're at 4, you just stay there.
Stop.
I guess the one thing that would happen is you get to choose a new ring bearer possibly.
Okay, yeah, you still get that like trigger. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you would still get that trigger. Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, though, there's some decent cards here. We don't have all the time in the world, but there's one in particular I think is getting a lot of hype, which is Delighted Halfling. You want to tell us about Delighted Halfling?
I would love to. The Delighted Halfling is a creature halfling citizen. He is a 1/2. It has 2 tap abilities. The first is tap to add 1 colorless, and the second is tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. Anytime you see a can't be countered on something this cheap, you think it's going to be fairly popular, fairly strong. It always reminds me of the value of Cavern of Souls, like how that card is very expensive for a reason, and I mean, it does a pretty good Birds of Paradise impression, just a little stronger. And
what was its casting cost?
Oh, sorry, yes, it costs 1 green, so there is that 1 restriction. But
yeah,
I mean,
this card seems very, very pushed. Any 1 mana taps for a mana, even just if it was 1 green, 1/2 tap for a colorless halfling citizen, it'd likely see someplace somewhere. Mana dorks are just that good. But the fact that it can add mana of any color to cast legendary spells, I mean, this could be used to cast legendary creatures, planeswalkers, legendary artifacts, legendary spells like sorceries. They have some of those legendary sorceries like Yawgmoth Vile Offering.
Absolutely.
And it makes them not counterable. So that's pretty good. I have a feeling a lot of the Legendaries Matters decks is going to want to run this.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, because you can take advantage of it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like it seems like an auto include as a mana dork in like Joda or something like that. It's not legendary itself, but
that would have been ridiculous. Yeah.
It would have been too good.
Yeah, it's also just like if you have a commander that is like a kill on sight, it's pretty nice that you can guarantee it hits the ground.
Right. I guess we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the ring itself. So there is the One Ring.
The One Ring. Oh, I was like, yes.
Well, there's going to be some soul rings that come in packs, and they're going to be very rare, limited edition.
One of one.
Yeah, there's a 1 of 1 actual, but that's the 1 of 1, the One Ring. There's like 1 of 500, 1 of 700 or something like that, and 1 of 900, I think.
Yeah.
For like elves, the humans, and the dwarves, I think is what those are for. But they're all soul rings, and they're going to be limited number. But the big money one is going to be the 1 of 1, the One Ring, which is a 4 mana legendary artifact. It has indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring. You can tap it, put a burden counter on the One Ring, then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. So the first turn you cast this, it gives you the ETB ability, and then you can tap it, draw a card, and you lose a life on your next upkeep. but then you tap it the next time and you draw 2 cards, and then it'll do 2 damage the next turn, and then 3 cards and 3 damage, 4 cards, 4 damage. But if you stop drawing cards with it, it's still going to keep doing damage. So kind of want to put this in a deck with either lifelink or ways to bounce it back to your hand, so you can reset.
Or like sacrifice it. Yeah.
Sacrifice
as long as it's under your control if it's happening or not. Yeah, it's scary that life loss quickly adds up.
Yeah. There is the Mount Doom land. It's a legendary land. It lets you tap for black or red mana for damage. And it allows you to pay 7 and sack it and a legendary artifact to choose up to 2 creatures, then destroy the rest. So kind of a cool combo that you have Mount Doom and the One Ring. If the One Ring gets out of hand and you're losing too much life to it, you can sack it to kill everybody's creatures but 2 of yours.
It's really flavorful. Yeah.
Very flavorful.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what I want out of this set more than anything. I know that this is being championed as a modern legal set, and so far, other than the Delighted Halfling, I don't see any cards that are going to be staples in modern. But I'm not a modern player really, so I don't know. There's Reprieve that could see play, maybe.
I know the initiative deck broke a format. Was it modern or was it legacy?
Legacy.
Because I wonder if Tempting the
Ring
would do a similar thing.
It could. So legacy. Whenever they create any products, they are always legal in legacy, unless they're unset.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So this set, if they had never said anything about otherwise, it would have been legal only in legacy. But they said specifically this set is going to be modern legal.
I've heard some modern people on podcasts and whatnot being a little upset about the loss of the Magic characters in modern, but I don't play modern either, so I don't really care.
I mean, even though I play modern, I really don't care. It's still relevant IP. It's fantasy. It's just another. You think of it as Lord of the Rings has its own plane.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
it works. Yeah. I mean, I get Transformers and Walking Dead is kind of a stretch because it doesn't have the same feel, but this straight up has the same feel.
That's a good point.
We saw halflings very recently in actual Magic sets. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Is a Kithkin a halfling? What's a Kithkin?
Kithkin is kind of like a halfling.
Is it? Okay.
It's not a halfling, but it's pretty similar. Okay. I mean, anyway, so let's move on. There's a bunch of cards. We barely have any spoiled yet so far, so I think we can delve more into this another time.
Absolutely.
There are going to be some really cool buy a box promos on top. One is the World Tree, not the World Tree. The Great Henge is being printed as the Party Tree.
Yes.
The art's pretty sweet. Ensnaring Bridge is being printed as Bridge of Doom. And then Valley of Gorgoroth is a reprint of Wasteland. So these are super cool. The art's nice. Some of these are going to be worth a lot of money. I mean, the Great Henge is still like a $60 or $70 card. So yeah, I doubt that this is going to really fix the price of that card because it's just going to be in this special slot. It's not going to be in the actual packs.
Fortunate.
So yeah, I mean, it's still a cool new art for it. So
that's true.
All right, so what is March of the Machine Aftermath?
Okay, well, first off, I will say I don't really know, but from my understanding, I know it is a set around what happened. The Phyrexians invaded, and then something happened where the good guys won. I don't know what exactly happened, and the people on the good guys got their sparks removed, so they can't planeswalk anymore. But that's about my knowledge.
Kind of. Okay. So you're going with the lore answer.
No, I know the card's way better. Sorry, I misunderstood the question.
No, I mean with the set itself. Yes, the set is weird.
That's why I was asking. Is a small, like you said, 50 card set that is. I don't really know why they did such a small set right after March of the Machine, but that's kind of what it is. I guess it's mostly commander focused set. Did they say that?
They didn't say that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the standard legal set.
Okay.
This is the first set of its kind. It is a mini set.
Is that literally its name, a mini set? Oh my gosh, I hope it is. That's so cute.
Yeah. So 50 card set. Still has quite a few mythics. It's got 10 mythics,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of a lot when you think about 50 cards. And all 10 mythics are desparked planeswalkers.
Okay.
So they're all of the planeswalkers you come to know and love, like Narset and Tyvar and Ob Nixilis and Sarkhan and Nissa, Calyx. A lot of these are very well-known planeswalkers that are now legendary creatures, which I'm pretty sure they said, hey, I really want to use some of our most famous characters so they can be commanders without printing planeswalker cards that say you can be commander. So how can we do that? Well, let's write into the story that they lose their spark for a little while so we can print some of these. And if it's popular, maybe we'll just make it a thing where all the planeswalkers, go through periods without their spark so we can make legendary creatures to sell more packs.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me in Dragon Ball Z, when they kill the characters, they always come back with the rings, and it's like, death isn't real, we're just trying to make this long story, and it's like, oh, okay.
Well, it's like the comic book problem is you're trying to write comics for 60 years with the same characters.
Yeah.
It's so hard to make anything have consequences because you got to bring the characters back because what else are you going to do?
People love them, yeah. Well, which card specifically are you most excited about from the set, Martin? Anyone in specific?
Yeah, so I think for me, Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin is my favorite. It is a red and a black and 2 colorless for a 4/3 legendary creature demon. It has flying and trample. And it says whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin. Exile the top card of your library. Until your next step, you may play that card.
Wow.
So this card is very good. It's a very strong card, but it's also, I think, a fun build around card. Like everybody likes the whole impulse draw thing, which is cool. But the losing 1 life means you can build this deck in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In particular, you could do like the normal pingy thing, which red loves to do. Like do 1 damage to target player, or
like the Warhammer.
Yeah, like the Warhammer Commander, the red-blue one.
Yeah, okay, very similar.
Yeah, very similar. In this case, instead of it giving you extra damage, it gives you a +1/+1 counter on the Ob, which means more damage. And you get another card, which means it replaces itself.
Seems a little better.
I think it seems better
mana too, I guess. I think.
Yeah.
That's sick.
So, but the cool thing is this is losing 1 life. So this also works with things like Blood Artist.
Oh, wow.
So you could imagine a situation where you could trigger this 6-7 times in a turn, pretty easy, in an Aristocrats build. And that's what I want to do with it. I want to build like a black-red Aristocrats deck with like a exile sub-theme. And I think this card's going to be a lot of fun and very powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Nice.
But there's some bangers in here out of these legendary planeswalker creature things. Nissa is probably the strongest. It's a green and 2 colorless for a legendary elf scout. That's a 3/3, and it's got landfall.
Of course.
Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add a mana of any color. So this is basically a more expensive, bigger body Lotus Cobra.
Yeah.
And Lotus Cobra was always kind of bad because it has the 1 toughness, so it can't even block 1/1 tokens. So a lot of times it might as well not even be a creature on the board. But so the 3/3 is definitely a more meaningful body for the extra mana. But its secondary ability is what's really powerful. It says if it's the second time that this ability is resolved, the landfall ability, then you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an elf or elemental card. Put that card in your hand and the rest on the bottom of the library in a random order. So this plus a fetch is basically makes it only have cost 1 mana, right?
Yeah.
And it draws you a relevant card.
Yeah.
So pretty good. In fact, you could even make a deck where you have like exactly 1 elemental in the whole deck, and you're using this as a tutor.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I mean, this is just generally the most generically strong card.
It seems really strong. I thought they should have put an amount to look for from the top of the deck, and not just until you reveal. I don't know.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, this card is strong, but it's not broken strong, I don't think.
Is there any correlation between Nissa and like an elemental? Like, is there a reason why it's elf or elemental? She's an elf scout. She's scouting the elements. I don't know.
think I think she's been in tune with the elements in the past.
Oh, maybe she's like a druid or something like that. I don't know. I don't play a lot of planeswalkers.
Pretty sure one of her first cards made elementals.
Oh, that would make sense then.
Yeah, I think her flip card, not her first planeswalker, but her flip planeswalker, um, made a legendary elemental creature token.
That would make sense why it's.
If I remember correctly.
Then. Oh.
I'm not seeing the card. Oh, also like Nissa Worldwaker makes elemental land tokens.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, so there's several of them that make elemental tokens.
Okay.
So it's definitely flavorfully correct, but it's just the most generically strong card I think in the set,
Nice.
especially out of these legendaries. But there's a couple other pretty cool ones. Kiora, Sovereign of the Deep, is probably the best Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, Serpent commander now. It's a 5-mana 4/5. It's got Vigilance, Ward 3, because why not? And it says when you cast one of those creature types, you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value, and you may cast a spell with mana value X or less from among them without paying its cost. So it's better than Cascade, kind of. You cast like a 7-mana Kraken, then you get to look at the top 7, and you could cast a draw card spell, a removal spell, an artifact, another creature, whatever.
Seems strong, yeah.
It doesn't chain, so if you pick another Kraken or Leviathan and cast that, you don't get to keep going. It has to be cast from your hand.
Okay, good they included that, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But they're all pretty strong. I do recommend everybody check them out. You know, you got Karn is an artifact-based commander. Narset is a prowess commander that allows you to cast non-land cards, non-creature, non-land cards from any graveyard, which is kind of cool. Tyvar is once again an elf lord kind of thing, gives elf death touch and allows all your mana dorks to get bigger as they tap for mana. Samet is haste tribal basically. Calyx is enchantment tribal, making enchantments bigger, and it can actually clone, like make copy tokens of enchantments. So lots of cool ones. Sarkhan, of course, is dragons. But notable reprint here is Training Grounds. It's like a $20, $30 card.
Wow.
So that reprint is pretty big, especially in this set, because at Rare it's going to be so many copies are going to be opened that hopefully the price would tank.
That would make sense. They're not doing a pre-release for this, are they? When it comes out?
No, they're not. It
Not
wouldn't
enough
work
cards,
very.
right? That
Yeah.
makes sense.
But there's some fun cards in here. Have you had a chance to look at any of them yet?
I know I had seen the Calyx and I had seen the Nahiri before. The Nahiri is one that I think seems cool. The affinity for seemed really cool, but the Calyx struck my eye because I really like the Calyx art for his Planeswalker. Pretty cool, but yeah, those are the only two. I haven't looked at much of it. Honestly, I was like, I paid a lot of attention to the Marching Machine original cards because I really wanted to do the pre-release, and then I've just been staring at the Lord of the Rings spoilers page because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah, you're pretty hyped.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like this set
As a whole, really.
Yeah, I don't like any products that are not playable. So what I mean by that is draft packs, I can draft the cards.
Oh yeah.
Precons, I can play the precon. These cards, I just have to buy the cards and put them in a deck, which is an extra step.
Yeah.
So,
less organic.
Yeah, it's standard legal, so it's not like they can like print cards that they can't print in a standard set. So it still has to have be able to be printed into standard clause. Like if they were trying to use this as a way to have another modern legal set that's not like a Modern Horizons or Modern Masters kind of product, but that's not the case. So it just, I think Saffron Olive, Seth over at MTG Goldfish really put it well. He had a short video out earlier in the week or last week that said he felt like this was a leftover album. You know how like they'll record a bunch of songs for an album and then they'll pick like 10 to go on the album. And then if it was super popular, then they might come back later and do, this is the B-side album, and this is all the tracks that didn't make it on.
Yeah, the
That's
bonus content.
Yeah, it kind of feels like these are the cards that got cut from the main set, but they could have all been printed into the main set.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Sort of a money grab. Kind of feels bad.
I feel like this is just them trying to figure out a way to sell more physical cards.
Yeah.
And for as little work as possible. Which I can't blame them. They're a business. They want to make money. But it seems not ideal.
Yeah.
But there's an uncommon that's really good.
Oh, what's that?
It's a Gamble Light.
Oh.
It's a red and a colorless sorcery. So you search your library for an artifact card, put it in your hand, and then discard a random card. And then if an artifact card was discarded by its effect, then it does 2 damage to each opponent. So it's more narrow, but this is just another artifact tutor.
Yeah.
And red is one of the best artifact colors, so I have a feeling that this will be
pretty popular.
Very popular. There's some very, very strong red-based artifact decks that like having artifacts in their graveyard specifically. Osgear comes to mind.
Felden,
the
third man.
Felden, the Goblin, Planeswalker guy.
Oh, Duretti, yeah.
Duretti, yeah.
I freaking love that. I've been wrecked by that guy multiple times.
Yeah, so I feel like this Reckless Handling just is going to be an auto-include in those decks.
Definitely good call out.
So much better than any of the other cards of its ilk for those decks, except for Gamble.
Yeah.
It's cheaper, does the same thing basically, but
cool.
Yeah. So not in love with the product, but it seems like it's going to have some good cards. So that's always nice. Not that we have a problem with cards being printed.
No, yeah, not at all.
Plenty of cards being printed.
So excited. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on over at Secret Lairs?
Yes. Actually, I don't have that pulled up. I closed out of that because I was like, I literally pulled it up when you were talking about it, and I was like, Ben, you need to close that tab so you do not buy any. I started looking at the one we were talking about, the Thassa's Oracle one. I was like, oh my god, it's so pretty. Yes. Over at secretlairs.wizards.com, they have a bunch of new the Spring Super Drop 2023. So they've got a bunch of new options. Check it out. Like all Secret Lairs, they have some sets or some grouping of cards that are going to be more valuable than others. So I would say try to stay away from ones that you don't have a spot for already, or if you don't think you'll actually play it, just because it's pretty expensive to buy these. But the art.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
That's true. That's true. I say that because I know myself. I'm like, if I stare at these long enough, I'm like, oh yeah, that's sweet. You'll definitely play that.
Yeah, I have to admit that I'm looking pretty long and hard at this foil bundle for $300.
Yeah.
Oh man. But then, I may not be able to buy as many singles as I want from Lord of the Rings, so it's kind of
balancing act.
It's kind of a bad timing for me, because I try and limit my spending to like 300 at most in a month on Magic.
They've got 13, 14 bundles in here. That's
okay. So there's individual Secret Lairs. It looks like there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like 9 different ones. So there's several March of the Machines, which are all $50 a pop, because they are all only available in foil.
Okay.
Some notable reprints include Walking Ballista, Hagar the Stillwind, I think is a money one.
Oh, they got
Sancha is the first reprint of that. Misdirect is a cool one. Nyx Bloom Ancient is a desirable one.
World Tree in there.
World Tree is decent. It's a $5 card. The art's just a little too similar to the original one. I would rather have seen different art. Okay. But yeah, so all of those are decent. And then if you look at the Elena Danner set, you've got Linvala as a reprint, which is a pretty high value card. Keeper of Silence, and the art is pretty magnificent. And then Emiria Sky Ruins, another high value card, and the art looks pretty sweet.
Art for all of those Angel ones looks sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randy Vargas has got one. Randy Vargas is the least interesting art-wise for me. They just look like regular old Magic cards. Although I do like the giant Dachshund. That's pretty adorable on the self figure. But Grand Abolisher alone is going to make this one worthwhile, and then you get a Jit too at Umazawa Jitte. That's big value. The Grand Abolisher is like such a staple. It's like in every single deck that runs white and CDH, so it's always a high value card.
It's like, what, $30 or $40, right?
Yeah, I think so. So it's definitely worth.
Nice.
Other than that, there's a couple others. You had mentioned
the cool
breeze.
That one is sick.
Yeah.
And they also just I remember the last time I bought a Secret Lair, it was because I saw the Demonic Consultation that they reprinted. That was like sick art.
So still looking at these Secret Lairs. Just talk about the last couple because these are some pretty good value. The Ocean Breeze one is pretty cool looking art. It's kind of like I don't know how to explain it, but
I would say it's kind of like a neon bar theme, like future
psychedelic kind of.
Yeah, psychedelic. Yeah.
Yeah. So Thassa's Oracle, of course, is another one. It seems like they've been really trying to include some CDH staples in these because people buy the whole thing for the one CDH staple because they like to have the pretty versions for those decks.
I feel like they also know their like clientele there, where they know that typically if you're playing CDH like with non-proxies, it's like you have a budget or you have a little bit more money where you're willing to ball out, you know.
You may not have a budget.
Yeah,
right?
It might be gone. That's fair.
So Thassa's Deep Dwelling is another good high value one. That's the one that allows you to flicker creatures. It's like it's like a $20 card if I remember right.
Very good.
So between those two cards, that's worth it. One of my favorites is Nature is Adorable, but it's the lowest value of the set.
But it's adorable.
But Yeva, Nature's Herald, is a pretty good one, but doesn't see as much play because it gives green creatures flash, so it's decent. But Nature's Will is not as good as it once was. It used to be a big commander staple, but it definitely has fallen off the map a little bit. And Joragus Tree Speaker. But my guess is this is one that will not be ordered a lot, so that this one will end up being worth like $80, $100 for all of these cards. Yeah. So if you're interested in these cards, I would recommend just buying it, biting the bullet. Because this is what's happened before whenever they are cute but not staples. Because what will happen is you'll get people who buy it that want to use them so that they don't hit the market. And the people who buy these things to flip them are not going to buy a bunch of these.
Yeah.
So there just won't be enough supply. So I think this is a prime example of the kind that I'd be interested in speccing on if I was going to spec on Secret Lairs, which I just don't really do because they're so expensive.
That's fair. Huh.
And the last one is Rebecca Guay. It's got several good cards here. Stoneforge Mystic alone is really good. Muddle the Mixture is a CDH card. Sarah the Benevolent is like a Angel Tribal kind of card. It's decent. But yeah, so it's just a good bundle, and the bundles actually have discounts this time compared to like the December one. You save $50 on the $300 bundle, and you save $75 if you buy the $500 bundle. So you end up with $424. So I don't know.
All right.
Some good ones in here. Pick out what you want, what you like.
What you're gonna play. Yeah, I will say that I feel like I've bought non-foil and foil, and I do still say like I really have enjoyed playing with the non-foil ones a little more because the foil ones just curl so much when I've gotten them in my experience.
So I've about half of the ones I've gotten have been like Pringles.
Yeah, like bad.
Where they're just terrible. But then the other half stay flat and they look nice. I don't know. Okay. My problem is knowing which one is it going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I prefer the foils, especially with these cool arts. The shiny looks so nice.
That's true.
But I have noticed that the ones that are dual-sided tend to be flatter than the ones that are not.
For whatever reason. Huh.
Well, I think it's because the foiling is on both sides, so it's uniform. Where if you only have it on one side, it actually is what causes the bending, is that the foil pulls on it.
Oh, okay.
So it changes the moisture, whatever. And then last thing on Secret Lairs is, I guess, Tuesday, I think it's coming out, is the Cute to Brute Secret Lair Commander deck.
Such a good name. Pay that man more
It's a good
money.
game, but this deck is psychotic. Other than the fact that there's 47 flip cards in this set, in this deck, I don't really see a theme.
Just all over the place.
All over the place. Just seems like random flip cards they wanted to reprint, but needed a place to print them. So weird. Lots of good cards. It's $300 in value if you were to buy all these singles. They're wanting $150 for it. So more expensive than the Flip a Coin one. Flip a Coin did take 2 years to ship.
Yeah, the heads I win, tails you, or is it opposite? Is it?
Yeah, it's one of those.
No, I don't know.
Heads I win, tails you lose, I think.
Yeah, that definitely left a bad taste in people's mouth that ordered that.
Right. Which is, I think, why they pre-printed these. So these are pre-printed. They're not printing to demand. They're just saying, look, we've printed up however many we've got. We're going to sell them as is. If you get one, great. If not, then you're out of luck. And the 5 new art cards are adorable. They really are. I don't like the backs of most of them. I'm not a big fan of this God Machine art. But the front sides are awesome. Like the Nikki B, the Ravager. Such a cute little dragon. But also some other really high value reprints like Nissa Vastward Seer is the one that flips and makes a legendary elemental. You've got the Jace Friends Prodigy, Liliana Heretical Healer. That whole cycle seems to be in here. Valky, and notably, this is like the first time they have good lands. They're not the best lands, but they're decent. It's got one of each of the pathways.
That's not nothing.
So, yeah, I mean, they can see play in Commander some and 2 and 3 color decks maybe, but they don't see. They see also a little bit of play in Pioneer, so definitely could be better. Still feel like this is a 5 color deck. They should have included 5 shocks.
Yeah, at the minimum. I think that would be.
I just don't see how they can do that.
Yeah.
Or like maybe three triomes and 2 fetches to find those triomes would be.
That'd be like a happy compromise, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I just feel like, did we really need more pathways? They only sell for like $4 a pop.
Yeah.
It's not really high value, and it's not really good in Commander.
I mean, like secret layer deck, like go the extra, take that extra step just a little. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, if you cut, like, say, Nikki B, which is a $25 card, that would have paid for, one of the fetches from Modern Horizons 2 or 2 of those, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're talking about a lot of money. Cut the pathways, that would get you enough money to buy, like, 4 of the triomes from New Capenna.
Yeah.
So,
seems like a miss.
Yeah, I feel like it's a miss. I mean, I really like the cute arts on these, and I'm missing some of these flip planeswalkers, but I'm just not going to buy this one.
I'm definitely going to be bone out of that. I think the only one that I'll probably pick up from this this group of secret layers is the Cool Ocean Breeze one. That one is sick, and I just really want the Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah, it is a pretty awesome Thassa's Oracle, so we'll put that up on screen for those of you guys watching on YouTube. Definitely. So anything else you got? Anything coming up in Magic Land that you're the most excited for other than Lord of the Rings?
I'm not a huge Doctor Who guy, but that's definitely gonna build hype within. It's another IP that I know has a massive following that I'm excited to see some fans that have never played before jump into the game. But
yeah, that's always good.
Yeah,
I'm excited for any of the pre-cons for these big IPs.
After the Warhammer ones, yeah.
Exactly. After those, I'm like, okay,
100%.
You guys seem to really go hard on that last one. Are you going to go hard on the next ones too? If so, then I definitely want to get them.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Hopefully it won't be a Baldur's Gate deal where they took Commander Legends, which is a home run, and they did it again and they just screwed it up.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I mean, that set's still decent. There's decent cards in it, but it was really the allocation of the rare slot, which was the problem. We've talked about that before. For me, I think the most exciting thing for me is Commander Commander Masters.
Okay, yeah.
Gonna be a lot of sweet cards in that set.
Yeah.
A lot of heat. All of the Commander decks look pretty awesome. They've had a couple of spoilers for those out too. Particularly, I think the Eldrazi one has seen a lot of hype. The Face Commander's fine. Have you seen the Face Commander yet for that?
No.
It's 5 and a colorless mana, like an Eldrazi mana. So 6 mana for, I want to say it was a 6/6 or a 5/5, but it gives your uh, colorless creatures of 7 mana or higher Cascade, if I remember right.
Oh wow.
So that's pretty
That's
good.
very powerful.
So you cast your 10 power, 10 mana giant dudes. You can cycle into probably mana rocks, is my guess. In the way that deck's not as exciting as I was hoping for the Eldrazi Commander, but I'm sure there's still going to be some goodies in there. One of them is like a Planeswalker Commander, and then one of them is the Enchantress Commander, which
it's not so.
no, it's actually Abzan, so a white, green, and black commander.
Oh.
And here, let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they put some like much needed reprints from the CEDH community in that set, because they've already said they're printing a few of them. It's gonna be like it would be a pretty good time to do it, I think, if they're printing it for Commander.
Yeah. Okay. So Anixia, Hand of Erebos. Anixia. I don't know.
It's a good name.
Yeah. 2 white, black, and green. So 5 mana for a 4/4 legendary enchantment creature demigod. Has menace. Other enchantment creatures you control have menace. And whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment cards from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature, in addition to its other types.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pretty scary to be able to get back things like Doubling Season.
Yeah.
Because the Doubling Season will see itself and it'll create a duplicate, I think.
Get very quickly.
Exactly. So kind of stoked about that. I've been wanting to build an Enchantress deck, and this seems like a different take on Enchantress because it'll be creature based by necessity, right?
Yeah.
of. So I don't know. It looks kind of cool, kind of fun. The Zulodoc, Void Gorger was the Eldrazi one, and it was a 7/4, but for 6 mana.
Okay.
And it's not that they have Cascade; they actually have Cascade. So pretty powerful.
Better. Double.
Yeah. Double better. I mean, likely still hitting a mana rock is one of those hits, but at least maybe you'll also hit something that's maybe removal or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah, the Sliver one looks like crap, but
good. They don't need any more help.
No, it says Ledge Rule doesn't apply to slivers you control, but like, what are you gonna do? Clone a bunch of Sliver Legion, I guess. But it also gives them Encore, so you can pay X to bring them back out of your graveyard, where X is the number of opponents you have, right? So you can like exile one from your graveyard, you make 3 tokens, they all attack each opponent. Doesn't feel like what Slivers wants to be doing normally, so curious to see where they take that deck. And then the Commodore Guff is the Jeskai Planeswalker commander that has Planeswalker synergies.
Okay.
Yeah, so like he +1s to make a 1/1 red wizard creature token that taps for a red, but can only be used to cast Planeswalker spells. At the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target Planeswalker you control. So it's going to be interesting what Planeswalkers are in there and how many of them are new.
Super Friends.
I don't think they've ever done a Super Friends commander deck, so it could be interesting.
I'll tell you why, because it sucks to play against.
Oh, don't be a hater. I've got my favorite deck right now is Super Friends Infinity.
Oh my gosh, that sounds.
That
is like the one deck I might be like, I don't think this is the pod for me. That's my line in the sand.
Oh my god! I just remembered I had to go wash my dog.
Yeah, literally anything else.
All right, man. I think that's it for this week. We don't really have a finance corner. One thing is buy singles on the newest March of the Machines Aftermath set. There may be some high value cards in it, but they're going to be high value alternate arts most likely. Okay. There may be 1 or 2 of those mythic commanders that stay high in value, but overall it's going to be so much cheaper to buy singles unless you have a way to sell the other cards you open. So all the prices, both sealed and open, should tank pretty heavy after release. So
That's fair.
patience is the key there.
Patience is a virtue.
Yep. All right, Ben. Always nice talking with you.
Yeah. Appreciate you jumping on, Martin.
Yeah, of course. We are the Cardboard Cooks. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for listening.
Later.
Bye.